In this video, we're going to be breaking down Nick Setting's entire lean consulting business that collects him an estimated $1 million a year in profit at 82% profit margins with a relatively small following. He did it with something called a profile funnel, which is not a traditional funnel that wastes a lot of leads, but more of an ecosystem. This is such an aggressive way of scaling, but it's also so value driven in nature that if you want to scale your coaching business or consulting business in the fastest humanly way possible, then this will be the funnel to implement. If at any point in your business you're selling information, then this video will show you exactly how to maximize the revenue you're generating from your organic audience and ads. And that applies whether you're just starting out and looking for your first couple of coaching clients, or you're already doing upwards of 5 and 6 figures a month, but you're really looking to scale to the next level where you're reaching heights like Nick, where you're making close to $1 million a year in pure profit. By the end of this video, you'll understand the full extent of this profile funnel he uses that allows him to convert at 2 to 3 times the rate of traditional funnels and reach the level of profit that he now does every month. So if you're a coach, consultant, or creator who's looking to scale your business with funnels like this, then check out my links in the description. If you stick around to the end of this video, I'm also going to show you one factor that's going to make this system 10 times more powerful for you. And it's the same one that allowed Nick to reach his level of success with this high of a profit margin, and one that's going to give you a huge advantage over other authorities in your market. If you don't implement this factor, your growth will likely be very, very slow, just like it took Nick over a year to scale to a decent level when he didn't actually have this factor dialed in. So jumping right in, Nick's brand is built around systems and profit. And he sells to online coaches and consultants or agency owners looking to turn their business into a consulting model. And the way he acquires clients is through a profile funnel. So if we get to the first section, which is the eyeball generating process, number one, he leverages indirect ads. And those are ads that instead of showing an ad saying, click here, fill this form, book a call, Nick's ads just simply say, check out my profile, right? And the only job there is to make people curious enough to tap his Instagram handle and land on his profile. And then once they follow, his stories do the selling and his reels do the nurturing and selling as well. So you can think of each indirect ad like a billboard pointing towards a pop-up store, where the pop-up store in this case would be Nick's profile, his ecosystem, so to speak. Once they actually land in the pop-up store, in his profile, that's where they get nurtured and they experience all the goodness. Now, why is this so crucial as compared to other types of ads? This basically results in cheaper front-end metrics, cheaper ways to acquire a lead, where typically with a traditional call booking via sell funnel, you'd be paying $30 to $45 per lead in this B2B space. Whereas with Nick's process, he only has to pay $1.60 for each new follower. And each new follower is basically an asset because they can bring you money in the future. That's what an asset does. And each new follower is a new lead. So he ultimately ends up getting a lot cheaper cost per lead than a traditional funnel. And this allows him so that marketing does 80% of the closing for him. And it basically results in warmed prospects that arrive on the sales call very problem aware, and they're pretty much investment ready. And increases the show rate as well because they're getting nurtured from all different angles when they come into the profile through the indirect ad. So some of the pillars that come together to make this indirect ad process is as the following, and you can implement this as well so that you can have the indirect ads process work for you. So number one is targeting. So he attracts top of the funnel and middle of the funnel high quality leads that are going to be more informed, aligned, and pre-sold on your offer over time. And introduces a problem definition within the ad. So he defines the problem subtly and positions it as relatable and solvable. He includes a value proposition within the ad. So it teases the solution and offers value in advance through educational, inspirational content. And he instills credibility as well within the ad. So he uses subtle social proof like stories, client wins, or data without overtly selling the credibility, because that can have the opposite effect when you're overselling your proof, because it's like, why do you have to scream it out loud if your stuff is that good? And if you're getting these type of results, it kind of can have the opposite effect. And he also has a CTA within the ad, which is obviously a core component, but this one is like low pressure and is value driven and is subtle CTAs. So it's basically like non-committal type CTAs, where it's like, drop me a follow or DM me this keyword even potentially. So it focuses on providing valuable insights and tips to build trust. And then also buying behaviors as well. So it leverages buying behaviors, which is going to result in less sales resistance because it's going to allow the leads to persuade themselves through trust, relatability, and inspiration. And the ROI factor as well. So this is to say that this strategy is very more cost efficient over time because nurturing content compounds and drives organic results. And it's sustainable as well due to compounding trust and the long-term benefits from evergreen content. So that's the aspects of the indirect ads and why they're very effective. So you can apply this framework to start creating your indirect ads. And what you can do is you can aim for $50 to $100 a day in ad spend, and you can boost either your best performing reels, or you can make 2 to 3 direct ads and exclude your current followers. And then you can have a DM setter or an AI setter greet the new followers within 5 minutes. And like you can even drop a micro quiz or a lead magnet to start nurturing them right away in the DMs and give them specific assets that address their specific pains and gives them a solution to them so that they trust you even more in the DMs and they're easier to book in. Some of the KPIs you can aim for is have a cost per new follower of less than $2, a cost per qualified call for less than $100, a cost per acquisition of less than $500 depending on your ticket price. So if you had a $2,000 offer, if your cost per acquisition is $500, you'd be getting a 4x ROI, which is still strong. So, but ideally you want to keep it below $500, and aim for and basically track your ROAS in the first 5 days and see what ROI you actually end up achieving. And then you can use that data to then reiterate, make better ads or improve the sales process, which I'm going to walk through here in a minute. But then Nick also has organic short form content to generate traffic coming in. This brings in new traffic and followers to his page, but also it has insight-based value content that handles his clients' objections that work to nurture leads coming in as well, either from ads or from organic. And this is so efficient as well because as he's creating super good organic content that can pop off and get a lot more organic followers and eyeballs coming in, this will eventually lower the overall follower cost of the paid campaigns that I just went through earlier. And this is going to lead to 3 outcomes: either the lead DMing him straight away after landing on his profile, after seeing his bio, for example, because he would have a keyword in his bio, such as DM me info, or he would have a lead raising their hand from the stories, which I'm going to come to cover in a second, or the lead is going to interact with his content and gets DM'd either by a human appointment setter or an AI appointment setter. Now, in terms of traffic generation mechanisms, he also has long form content working for him. And the way he structures this is he has top of the funnel content, so broad content that attracts more people into his profile. He has middle of the funnel content, which nurtures people. And he also has bottom of the funnel content, which works to convert people and get them over the line. His top of the funnel content attracts search and algorithm traffic and gets qualified eyeballs onto his channel and builds authority for his brand over time, which helps a lot in converting people. And by the time they consume his top of the funnel, middle of funnel, and his converting type content, which is bottom of the funnel, he will end up with sales calls that are short and people paying a lot more upfront, even paid in fulls like he does. And they would have most of their objections handled. So there's lower sales resistance and the call is pretty much an order taking call. He also has outbound going for him as well, where he sends 500 DMs a day, leveraging an AI appointment setter as well. And he leverages multiple accounts for this because you're limited to a certain number of DMs a day on each account. And he optimizes the working hours for speed to lead as well. He usually has a few human appointment setters working the DMs for him when he doesn't have the AI set up. And in that case, he makes sure that speed to lead is ensured so that when prospects reply from the first DMs, they're going back to within a very, very fast time period so that he increases the engagement rate in the DMs and also response rates, which ultimately is going to lead to success rate in terms of booking the call from the DMs. And some of the numbers that break down in terms of revenue that he gets from this process is as the following. He sends 350 to 500 DMs a day. He gets 15 to 25 positive replies from that, 3 to 5 calls booked, 2 to 4 that show up, and 1 to 2 that close per day, which ends up being 30 to 60 closes a month. And with an average of $2,000 contracted for every call, he'll end up with $60,000 to $120,000 a month in cash collected. And he can end up with 85% profit with that, which would result in $50,000 to $100,000 a month just from this process alone. Now we get to the nurturing phase and the nurturing process. And the goal here is ultimately to have 80% of the work done by marketing and 20% done by sales, to have efficient sales calls that end up in $10,000, paid in fulls. And so the way Nick utilizes story sequences to ultimately convert prospects in the most effective way possible when they land on his profile is by having sequences, one, for new people, but also sequences to nurture warm people who have been in the profile for a while. And then third is sequences that work to convert people and get them over the line after they've been nurtured enough. And so the first type of sequence that Nick uses is when a fresh follower arrives, usually after seeing one of Nick's ads or reels. The very first story they meet is a curiosity post where the first slide could be a screenshot of, a $50,000 payment hitting his Stripe. And then the second slide could be, like how many appointments he's booked in 5 days. And then he would pose a question saying something like, want the playbook? And those big numbers and that quick question is going to spark a lot of interest. And it's going to make prospects think, whoa, like how did he do that, right? New prospects that come in from the ads. And it would pique their curiosity. So they'd keep checking out his profile and making sure that they keep watching his stories. So the second type of sequence Nick uses is a nurture sequence. And this is a handful of slides that feels pretty much like a mini lesson, where first he addresses the pain, might pose a question like struggling to book calls without ads, and then he gives a tip, giving a slight nugget around that to provide a mini solution for that, and breaking down, how to solve the first pain that he mentioned in the first slide. And he then poses a question on the poll, so he allows prospects to interact, and this is going to let Nick see like who's really paying attention and who's interacting and engaged. And he also has a behind the scenes on the last slide where it's basically a screen recording or a Google Sheet peek of a tracking document, for example. And viewers who tap the poll or react to that are going to be at the top of his DM inbox. And it basically makes it easy for his team or his AI setter to start a friendly conversation. Something like, hey, so you voted on the story. You want the full checklist? Which in this case, the checklist would be the lead magnet. And then number 3 is like evidence-based sequences. So once people are warmed up, then Nick ends up dropping a this type of sequence where it'll be like a short testimonial from a client saying, hey, I went from this to this in this time frame, or he'll show retreat footage, clients working from a nice villa or a yacht. And then the final slide would be a call to action, something like DM me Piff if you're ready to join. I'll voice note the details. So this triggers dopamine in prospects, makes them excited to if they're seeing people similar to them getting those results, and makes them excited to get over the line and start working with Nick to get those type of results. So these are some of the story sequences that Nick leverages to see the amount of revenue that he's seeing at those profit margins. So in the nurturing process, Nick also uses lead magnets, which he delivers mainly in the DMs. That's where he sends them a valuable asset, which is something like a Google Doc, or maybe a short Loom video or a template which covers a certain pain point and basically gives a solution to a certain pain point that his clients have. And then the idea is that his clients can experience a quick win from that, a small quick win, and then they think to themselves, if this is free, like imagine what I'd get like if I pay to work with him, which is gonna make asking for a call very natural. Each week, Nick also forwards his best story lessons to a broadcast channel on Instagram, and also an email list. And it's basically the same material that he shows on the story sequences. It's just saved from disappearing, and not everyone catches stories in the 24-hour window. And the resend to the broadcast channel and the emails basically keeps it top of mind without doing any extra content work. Now, Nick also has a free community that he's recently launched, And he is basically selling this for $949 for lifetime access. And prospects can join his group where they'll find weekly Q&A calls, templates, and a chance to chat with him. And why it matters is because there's lower risk on the front end for them to join this. And then when they start getting results and feel the true value, then they can upgrade to his $10,000 paid in full, his high ticket program. And he actually had 6 people do this in the first 2 weeks alone running this. He had 6 people who had initially joined his school group and invested in his $10,000 program within just 2 weeks, which is $60,000 in revenue for reference. So how you can implement something like this and how you can copy this type of process is you can launch a small, community group at 10% of your flagship offers price. So for example, if your offer is $5,000, you can have this community be priced at $500. You can deliver quick wins for clients in there through weekly calls or course material, and you'll have members getting quick wins, and you can invite them to calls very naturally, and then they'll be a lot more likely to invest in your high ticket program, and you can see those type of returns. Now, when we get to the conversion process, what this consists of is a one-on-one conversation with the AI appointment setter. And what the AI setter does is it qualifies them based on these criteria that are important to know for his offer so that he gets the most qualified leads, which is something like, do they have the money to invest right away? They have the business problems we can solve, recognizes the need to act now, and is driven to solve their problems. And he knows what results to expect and what not to expect from Nick, and is familiar with him and trusts his expertise. And then ultimately they handle final objections and they provide clarity, and the call is booked. So the way they're driven to the AI setter converts, as we've covered before, is through stories and through reels after landing into his profile from the ads. Now, we can also have leads self-booking in from his YouTube. When they come in from YouTube, they just book in themselves, or they can self-book in from a link that could be in the school community that Nick has. So they'd end up being self-bookings, and the way they're qualified is through a form like so, which would include qualification questions such as what's their current monthly revenue to gauge their financial situation, what their desired goal is, any current roadblocks, and if they're committed. And this is going to qualify the self-bookings to make sure that they are high quality prospects in the call. And then they enter a follow-up sequence to increase the show rate, and then they are ultimately placed in the high ticket call, the sales call, where it is pretty low pressure because of all the nurturing that Nick has already done. The length is typically 20 to 30 minutes of Nick's calls because of this, because of how good his ecosystem is at nurturing and converting his leads through content and trust-based marketing. And the structure for this is pretty simple. It's finding out where they are now, where they want to be, and finding out the gap and extending the gap, and then asking if they want help. And then they discuss the next steps, which is the fee, the timeline, and the support. And because, because prospects have watched all his stories, videos, and testimonials, most of them just say, cool, how can I sign up, before Nick even drops the price really a lot of the time. But so yeah, that's the process. That's his profile funnel that allows him to achieve the level of revenue that he does at 82% profit margins. Now, getting to the part of the video that I mentioned briefly that I would get to in the beginning, this is the one factor that allows Nick's system to become a lot more effective and convert at 2 to 3x the rate of standard funnels. And it basically allowed him to boost every part of his process. And what this is a YouTube sales system. We've developed this exact system and refined it over the last 2 to 3 years to be able to get results for our clients like Serge Guattari, who's a business consultant similar to Nick, and we've allowed him to collect $1.8 million last year in program sales through this YouTube sales system, with 80% of the traffic coming from YouTube. We've also helped another client add $100,000 in 40 days through the system, and another client, Juan, who we've helped generate $20,000 in high ticket sales as well for his business through this system and gain quick virality with his channel in just the first few videos that we've helped them craft. And it's also the same system that allowed us to achieve $21,000 in cash collected in just 11 days from one YouTube video that we've posted, and allowed us to collect a $7,000 deal in 40 minutes with no objections. So if you're interested in seeing how this system could potentially work for you and see results like these, which allow you to craft videos that produce over $100,000 in sales from just one video that you have made, and ones that aren't just going to get buried in the algorithm but work as pretty much 24/7 sales reps that continue selling for you without getting paid commissions and keep selling for you 1 or 2 years down the line, then hit the link in the description, watch the free training, and I will see you on the other side. So I hope you found this very valuable. I will see you on the next one. Thanks.